must tell me more about your corn casserole experience because let me tell you why.
Okay.
To me, someone going from not eating casseroles to loving specifically corn casserole is almost like someone going from not loving sushi to going to like the biggest, rawest sushi roll you can.
So
I think it's a big jump.
So here's what I would tell you about the corn casserole that I had is, and if you're in the second service, I don't think I made that joke. So, anyway, but the joke.
I was in both services, so you know.
Double points. You're just building on that mansion.
Yes.
So, but anyway, I the only casserole I've ever enjoyed was Thursday's corn casserole. But what I would tell you is it had a lot more of a cornbread vibe than it did like a smushy casserole. So I think it was kind of a gateway casserole. It was like.
So it was basically cornbread with some corn in it? Would you go so far as to say? Because that's northern cornbread as far as I know.
It was very similar to that.
Okay.
It was closer to that than like a green bean casserole that's mushy.
Green bean casserole is very mushy. I think it's the cream of mushroom soup.
Pretty much anything that you put cream of anything in, I'm not going to eat. That's kind of how it works in my.
So are you not a poppy seed chicken guy?
If I like really can get it through my head, like some people get on water and like they just have to think I'm not going to be seasick. That's kind of how I approach because I like the taste. But I can't. So
you just pop a couple Dramamine, eat your poppy seed chicken, take a nap.
One thing people probably don't know about me is I'm one of the fastest eaters out there. So as long as you just truck through and eat it quickly, you don't have time to think about it.
That really sounds enjoyable.
Yeah, it really is. Well, I suffered through. Thanks for your dinner. There's a lot of people out there like, I really would love to get Josh over to our house now so he can suffer through our food.
Yes, and depending on how quickly you eat, I'll know how little you enjoyed it. That's something I can look forward to.
It's pretty much a one speed kind of deal, but yeah.
So who deserves the accolades for this corn casserole that
actually, my understanding is one of my nieces made it.
That's right. You said a 12-year-old, right?
I think I actually don't know
very
ages
impressive.
very well. But yeah, she's one of the younger ones, and I thought
she's a promising casserole career ahead of her.
That's right. She probably forgot the cream of mushroom or whatever, and that's what made it great.
Saved the whole casserole.
Thank you.
Yes.
But yeah, it was really good. We had a great spread. It was had some great green beans. The bacon to green bean ratio was really good. That was probably
about 50-50.
It was close. It was close. But yeah, it was really good. We had a great time. Had turkey. Went classic.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
How about you? Did you prepare the food?
I prepared some of the food.
Okay.
And I do say prepare because I wouldn't even say it's really cooking. I put together the green bean casserole.
Okay.
Which did have cream of mushroom soup in it.
Yeah.
And cooked it. I put together the Cracker Barrel dressing that I picked up, which is literally, I don't know if you've ever done this, but it's awesome. They just give you a pan of all the dry ingredients and a little container of the chicken broth or whatever.
Yeah.
You just mix it all up and stick it in the oven, and there you go. Dressing.
I love that.
Little room for error. That's what I really like about it.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say like you prepared it by picking it up, like actually at the store.
No, I did actually have to mix
you had
things.
To make it.
I did have to mix things.
That's good.
And I also made the pumpkin pie. Again, pretty simple recipe, but yeah. And then my mom did.
I don't think I've ever had pumpkin
Dad did the
pie.
rest. Really?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm not sure I've ever had it. It seems like just a big thing of smushy things. Like it's its only thing.
I'm going to be honest with you. Pureed pumpkin, pretty smushy.
Right.
Pretty smushy.
Yeah. We did have brownies, good dessert. That's what I went with. There was an apple pie. It looked good too. But I don't do a lot of hot fruit. So.
Josh,
there's
so much to keep up with you with your food likes and dislikes.
There is. You know what we ought to do is everybody ought to have a card that they just hand to people. Like, hey, we'd love to go out to eat, but here are the things here's my limitations.
I think that the fact that you think that's a good idea is a serious red flag. Now,
I don't know. It really is helpful because there's a lot of people who have a lot of dietary differences now.
Yes,
so,
that's true. That's true.
There's a lot of stress in preparing food because you don't know. Like, what if they had a bad experience with poppy seed chicken or something?
Right. So. Well, there's a good gift idea for Josh. Just go on Etsy, see who makes the food aversion cards that he can pass out when he's invited places.
Appropriate restaurants.
Yes.
Cracker Barrel. I did go to Cracker Barrel too.
Good.
A couple days ago. It was great.
You just got it all in this
I
weekend.
looked for all the things that we talked about last time.
And
I couldn't remember them. So I remember there was a deer.
you know, much like your sermons stick with me, Josh. I was just thinking about your sermon yesterday. What specifically? I don't know. I just remember that you preached.
You were there.
I do all this research, and
Yeah.
all right.
Well, it was meaningful.
So glad. Well, we're just going to jump right into it.
Let's do it.
Mainly because I didn't actually prepare a real icebreaker this morning. But
I
the
think
ice is broken.
We've definitely broken
The ice is broken. The corn casserole is what put us over this morning. So great sermon. You preached from Psalm 13, which, by the way, probably my favorite psalm of all time.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I didn't
Lord
know that.
showed that to me at a very important time in my life, and the part that you focused on, that these things are going on. He's asking questions. He's feeling like maybe God's not even there, and then he just comes around to, but I know that you're faithful. You've never been unfaithful, so I'm going to sing to you.
Yeah.
So I love that it was one of my favorite passages, obviously, on a
That's
personal note, but I loved where you went with it and connecting it with this season of waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. Advent is a season of waiting. They were waiting for Jesus to come. We are waiting for Jesus to come back. And we celebrate that he has come, but we also celebrate that we are people with hope, and we have a future to look forward to. But that doesn't mean it's easy to wait.
Right.
And I think that's what we see in the psalm is, David knows that God is faithful. He knows God is loving. He also doesn't want to wait anymore.
All these things are true.
Those are things. I mean, I was thinking about that this morning. I mean, really, like there is a lot of just trying to navigate these two tensions throughout our life. Is that we don't enjoy the waiting, and so it's kind of like this. On one hand, you have "How long, O Lord," and on the other hand, it's "I will sing." And most of our life is lived somewhere in between, where we just long for things to get better or to change, but we also have that hope and that foundation. And I think it's okay to navigate that tension.
Right.
I don't think it's faithless to say, "God, how long, O Lord?" Or is this even ever going to happen? Why do I not seem to be able to overcome my enemies? But I also think it's good to, at the end of all of those questions, say, "But I will trust." And I will trust not just. And I think it was really important to point out, like, it's not trust just because you want to trust. It's trust because you've seen God's faithfulness in so many other ways. Like
Right.
you're not that there's like evidence, but there's evidence, that
Oh,
God
sure.
has worked and he's doing these things and he has saved you and he's given you a community. And I think that's important to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Well, and like we've talked about before, just we see so much of that in the Bible because God wants us to remember that maybe, we can look back years and years and years and years and see how he's continued to be faithful to his people. And like you reminded us yesterday, remember, he has been faithful to save you.
That's
right.
To
show you grace, to show you mercy, to show you unconditional love.
Yeah, he has met your greatest needs already. And so don't come to him and act like he hasn't done anything for you lately. He continues. I mean, he provides the air you breathe. He provides the family or the friendships or the whatever it is. I mean, he's given you all those things. I think it's just a great reminder in this season, because it's a very practical. I wanted it to be a very practical type thing, because I know there are a lot of people out there who are waiting on things. Maybe they're waiting to find a job, or waiting for a family to start, or looking for a husband or a wife, or just waiting for a season to be over. I know, working with kids, there's a lot of kids who just really wanted high school to be over so they could move on to something new. And the challenge of that is that we can't forsake where we are and where God has put us. That's that other tension we navigate, because we need to be grateful for all things, which is hard. But we also need to be content and know that God has placed us where we are for a reason, and it becomes this kind of day by day thing.
Right.
Today I will be faithful. Tomorrow I'll be faithful tomorrow, and just step by step, and you figure out God has led you all this way. And
Right.
I think it's it's an important season for us just to think about those things.
Definitely. And I loved one of the things that you just started off with, which was that phrase, the opposite of waiting is not arrival, but striving.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good point. It really made me think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is the natural feel, is that we would go from, okay, well, I don't want to wait anymore, so I'm just going to make it happen.
Right.
And that is, I think it's natural, it makes sense. It's cultural, there's no reason to wait. You just make it happen, do something, invent something, just put more effort or energy into it. And in the end, the results are probably always going to be the same, that it was always in God's timing. And rather than stress and strive and work in vain, simply that daily obedience, that building a virtue, that would have been more healthier than anything else.
Sure. Yeah.
And
it's like, how well can you wait? Like, it goes back to all the things we've talked about with your thought life.
yeah,
Like, maybe outwardly people think, oh, she is showing patience, she is waiting well on the Lord in this situation. But
Yeah.
if the inner turmoil is this striving,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of that could also be seen in people asking, I did ABC, so I really don't understand why that hasn't resulted in
that's right.
what I anticipated.
That's
and so
right.
they strive and they kind of rage against that.
Because you see that. I mean, I think you see that. But in the passage, for example, David could have said, "All right, God, I'm going to go worship 2 times a day now. I'm going to give away a lot of my wealth, and then maybe you'll finally do this." But what we have to always remember is doing that kind of thing is what we're trying to do is put God in our debt. We're trying to say, God, you owe me.
Right.
When the whole time he says that doesn't even translate in this situation. It doesn't make any sense. But we do try to strive, and we try to make a lot of things happen. And I think one of the reasons we do that is because it is a faith issue. It's a trust issue. It's also maybe too much faith in ourselves, like believing that we have the knowledge within us. We just have to use it.
Right.
We just have to dig deeper. And if we dig deeper, we'll finally figure it all out. But there are things in this world that just simply aren't explainable.
Right.
It's like that Habakkuk 1:5. God is doing something that you wouldn't believe it if he told you. If somebody came up and said, here's what God is doing, you would say, no, that can't be it. And that's true. I mean, in all these situations, God's doing things that we would never believe.
Right.
And yeah, so
And may not understand until we see him face to face one day. That's the faith that we should have, though.
That's right.
All things are working together.
That's right.
All right. What's next? You started. Do you want to walk through the steps of in Psalm 13 that
I think
that David was?
Yeah. So I would tell you, I think that in that psalm, I would say just the 3 things that he talked about is that he felt forgotten, he felt ignored and unprotected. And I think a lot of times in our lives, we're going to feel that way, even if it's not true. There things are going to happen, and we're going to come to that point where we think, God, why have you forsaken me? Why have you forgotten me? And in those circumstances, we have the choice whether to question God's character and his concern for us, or to turn it around and say, no, I am going to believe because I've looked at prior faithfulness. I think that's one of the things is a helpful exercise, is to sit and meditate on just the times when you did wait and God delivered whatever it was. We don't do that very often because we're a people of like the immediate problem. And so if God solves problems today, we just move to the next problem. And when you go back and you begin to reflect on your life and you think about it, I've been reading a number of like memoirs and biographies, and it's just so interesting as people come to later in life and they look back and they just begin to see the picture unfolding. And as they do that, it's an exercise in understanding, here's where God was faithful, here's where God was faithful, and when you do that, and when those begin to build up, you start to think, you know what, God is faithful.
Right.
Like there's no reason for me to believe that he won't be in the future.
Right.
And that's, people who have prayed that they would meet the person that God has for them, and then just thinking about all the ways that had to come together.
Right.
And for those who waited for a long time to have children, or ways that God worked that out. People who waited for a job and they finally got that job. People who just waited in hard seasons, and they look back and they say, you know what, that season was really good for me in a lot of ways.
It's a good reminder for us to be willing to share our stories and our testimonies too, because maybe someone is in some sort of circumstance or season that they've never encountered.
Yeah.
And to hear from someone who has been in a similar situation, has waited, has endured, and knows that God was faithful to them, that's so important for people to hear.
It really is. I've been thinking about this, like what, particularly just for the church, how are we going to continue to build community? So we have people, but we want to continue to deepen that sense of community. And there's a lot of things we could try. We could put on some events. We could, do a lot. Truthfully, the way that it's going to happen the most helpful way is for people just to share their stories.
Yes. And
to be vulnerable and to be available to and willing to say, I have that same struggle, or I already hear some of those stories coming out of life groups, the groups we have. Just even yesterday morning, Sunday morning, somebody was just asking about family stuff, and they were sharing some of their family background, and I thought, man, that is, now I have this deeper sense of like knowing who they are and where they come from. And that's how I really do believe that's how we're going to grow. And so creating opportunities like that becomes, a deep desire for us. Is how can we build these opportunities? But even while we're decorating, for Christmas, just sharing stories, or as we serve together, all of that, it really is, it's not as hard as we'd like to make it out to be.
And I would encourage people too, just very practically. I understand my kids are older; they're not nearly as difficult to get out the door in the morning. So for people with little people at home, that it's hard to get going, maybe not a great option. But for others, get to the service like 10 to 15 minutes early.
Yeah,
that's when I get to have a lot of great conversations with people, because a lot of people just walk in and they're just sitting and waiting, and you can really make some connections with people just with that time alone.
That's right.
So that's just a small thing I think that people could do to get to know their fellow congregants.
That's
Sounded very
I mean,
high church. I like that.
Yeah, it was. They're congregant. Hello, congregant.
I would like to get to know you better.
I would like to hear your story.
I think that's a great way to start the conversation too. I highly recommend it. People will not think it's strange at all.
I think that's good. I think we finally found what we're going to call people: Old Town congregants. Hey. So I think, as we looked at that, the song, kind of wrap up here, is we look towards that, the song, Come Thou Long Expected Jesus. And I love that song. Which is one
of the most beautiful melodies, I think, in Christmas music. And yes, beautiful lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
Very meaningful lyrics as well.
I was a big fan. I actually didn't know that there were multiple verses. So that's one of my favorite things about these Christmas carol times is when you sing the second verse, and you're like, whoa, there's more.
Look at
That's
there.
2 times the song.
Yeah.
But
it's bonus material.
Bonus material. That's it. But yeah, I loved it, and I thought it was really meaningful. And it is a song about hope and asking God to intervene in this world. And one of the end elements of that is joy of every longing heart. And I think that really is true, is that there is so much joy in recognizing not just that Jesus was born, but what it means for the world, but also for you as an individual.
Right.
And it is, it's not just, he didn't just fix things big picture. Really, individually, he ministered and saved you. So I think it's encouraging.
Which also reminds me of the line that I pointed out from the first song we sang, the Joyful, Joyful, that line about giver of immortal gladness.
Yeah.
Like, that has just resonated with me to really think about what that means.
Of immortal gladness, too. That's pretty fun. Like, there's not a lot. I mean, not a lot of things that are immortal, but gladness is one of those.
Right.
that
Well,
is
and I
true.
mean, just like, in this season, so many people are looking for that, and they
Yep.
are striving in these directions of having the most decorated house, the best Christmas gifts for their family, the most, memorable experiences. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that even in the midst of all that they do not have joy. They do not have gladness in their hearts. And I think the promise of that through Jesus is something that I want to cling on to a little bit more tightly.
I think that's
Maybe that's
great.
helpful for others.
Yeah. Well, and I hope the Christmas season is that. I know actually it can be a really difficult season for a lot of people because of just loss, or it's just there are some people who just don't like it, which I'm very perplexed by. But that's okay. To each their own. But I know it can be a difficult time. But I also think it's such a time of hope. It's such a time of celebration. And I think that's what we want to capture in this sermon series, but also we want to capture through our worship and beyond, just incorporating this sense of joy. It's one of the reasons I think joy really is a value of our church. I desire for it to be a value of our church because there is immortal gladness. There is joy. There is peace. There is rest. I find rest very joyful. I don't know about you.
Oh, yes.
But there are all these things. And so celebrating that and incorporating it into our life is a powerful thing.
Right. So why don't we leave them with your parting shot from yesterday, which is we do not wait like a people with no hope.
That's right. Yeah, waiting without any hope is miserable. It's like that sense of powerlessness, that sense of a lack of control. That's awful. Nobody likes that. Nobody wants that. Even though we walk through it at times, but we don't wait as Christians. We don't wait as people without hope.
Right.
We wait as a people who have a sure future, have sure protection, have sure grace. All of those things,
Right.
And that in those times when we're tempted to believe otherwise, I think we turn to Scripture, we turn to those stories in our own life and in other people's lives where God has been faithful, and we kind of shake out of it and realize, you know what, I think it's worth the wait.
Right.
It's going to be okay.
Right. And we know that hope. You mentioned yesterday that this time of the year, a lot of people are more receptive to an invitation to church, an invitation to your home for the purposes of celebrating Christmas. And I think it's a great way for us to share that hope with others.
That's right. Yeah. There's a danger, I think, to assume. Well, there's a danger, I think, for our church right now, because you see a lot of people. You think, you know what, we're good. I guess we're all set. The reality is, this season can be really hard for some people, but they are more receptive to coming to church and more receptive to talking about the things of God, I think, in this season. And so rather than say, you know what, I guess we're pretty good now, just remind ourselves that there are people who are in desperate need of hope. There are people in your neighborhood. There are people on your kid's cheer team or your basketball team. I mean, as you're sitting with neighbors and parents in those groups, just share, don't share about the church necessarily, but share about the hope that you have and encourage them to experience that through a worship service somewhere. I'd love for it to be at Old Town if that's possible.
Right.
But yeah, I think people are so receptive and they like it. And now we have lights. So we have Christmas lights everywhere. We put some garland up.
Christmas lights are a big draw.
We have like more than 6 trees. So that's pretty
like
impressive.
7?
Well, yeah, I think it is 7. But that's
a good
lot.
holy number.
Maybe
I like
8.
that.
I think we have 8 trees. So that's pretty cool.
You'll have to come in person and find out
come check
how
it out.
many trees we have.
I know. The gym looks like a winter wonderland.
Aw.
I thought it was really fun.
I can't wait to see
Yeah,
it.
it's going to be great.
I was just going to say one other thing, and that is when you're having these conversations with people, when you get a prompting to either share something with them, to invite them somewhere, whatever it is, just heed it. I've never walked away from a conversation when I have gotten that prompt and followed up on it with any regret. I have walked away from a conversation thinking, I should have said, I should have invited, I should have, whatever it is. So just be listening to the Spirit's prompting and and be willing to be obedient.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
That's a good word. Yeah, it doesn't even take that much, just opening that conversation. I think one of the benefits of the isolation a lot of people have felt is they are more quick to engage and more apt to have a conversation, and I think it can be a valuable thing.
Yes.
And we, I would love for our people to be known as people who just carry that message forward.
Yes.
They're like, that's an old town person. They're going to talk to me about Jesus. But that's great.
But they're really nice. I like them.
But they're super nice, and I think I'll listen. That's really good.
And they have 8 trees. They have 8 trees, and that's
an
something
8-tree
really
church,
special.
So they must have something going. But yeah, well, good.
Last minute reminders before we head out.
Last minute reminder is the big one, and this was probably something we should have talked about. Is this Saturday is the Christmas parade.
Oh, okay.
So you know what happens in like Thanksgiving where it's like a black hole and you forget that time keeps moving? Well, that's what happened for me.
I've heard that some people experience that. Yes.
I did, yeah. So I was like, oh, you know what? We're in December almost.
Yes.
I did not think about that. So we have the Christmas parade coming. What we want to do as a church at the Christmas parade is simply be hospitable to the people who are all coming to us. We just talk about inviting people. In this sense, they all just come to the church because that's where they park.
Sure, in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to use the church to kind of be the hub of hospitality for people who are coming on. We're going to have hot chocolate to distribute.
Oh, nice.
We're going to pass out little candy canes and just connect, be able to talk.
Is there a
with
certain
people.
time people should be there?
That's a great question.
Thanks.
I don't know.
It's something else you
we're
said
gonna find
yesterday
out.
is it is good and acceptable to ask questions.
It is good and acceptable to ask questions. So that I don't know. I got a little mixed messages on the timing for the parade, but we'll get that out. But this is a great reminder for you to stay attached to that social media.
Yes. Sometime on Saturday, we will be passing out hot chocolate.
I think it's around 10, but I don't want people to
like
hang out from 10 and then be like, oh, it was at 1. So
Right.
I'll find out the details on that.
more information coming.
But I think it'll be great. We'll have everything prepared, but the ask is this: just come and hang out, just
Right.
touch base, be
So
hospitable.
be kind of like Fall Fest with maybe a little bit less work on our part and a little less candy.
a lot less work and a lot less candy,
Yes.
fewer inflatables, which is sad. But no, it'll be great, man. I'll tell you, what a great opportunity when the community comes to you. This is really a chance for us to say, this is who we are.
Right.
So many people in the town. When we did that little tear up the driveway, people started asking questions again. And
Why are
they're
you
like-
tearing it? Things
they're
like, why are you tearing up the driveway?
Are you destroying things?
Yes.
But we're back on the consciousness of the people. Mm-hmm. And the big question is what is this?
Right.
What is this church? Are people really going? Every time we have an event, people are like, oh, I didn't know you went here. Mm-hmm. And that's a connection you're building, and because people just don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. It makes sense. But they can know because they're coming. And then when we walk out and we say, hey, I go here. This is what it's like. My kids like it.
I'm a congregant.
I am a Old Town congregant. We need a shirt, congregant. Not greeter, but just straight up congregant.
Yes.
But yeah,
I'll get right on that.
So that's coming up this week. And then
So was it decided? I'm not asking for myself, but I know a lot of people were asking. I won't be riding on a float on behalf of the church.
we're not going to do a float this year.
Okay.
You won't
right.
be. Now you can go get on one illegally.
You may or may not be taken to jail, but okay.
I don't know. I mean, people might be really nice and just
Good
be
to know.
Well, you love Christmas, I guess. Make sure you get the wave.
I'm still working on that. I'm going to go back and watch the last video where you did it.
Please do.
Take a tutorial.
But yeah, it'll be good. And then
no midweek this week.
There's not midweek this week. That's right.
Or the 8th.
Right. Not in December.
And then on the 15th, though, we have the Christmas party.
The 15th, which
Right?
is the
Wednesday.
12th. Yeah, it's the 12th.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a Sunday night. So
Okay.
it's good. You know what?
I
It's
think
good.
maybe that's not right in some places.
We're gonna
I'll have to
fix
check
that.
my work.
It's going to be good. So don't check social media until in 2 hours. And then
Yes.
it'll be really good. So yeah, it's on the 12th that night. So
Christmas party is Sunday night,
it's a
December
Sunday
12th.
night, December 12th, 5 to 6:30.
Okay.
Building some gingerbread houses, having a good time.
Okay.
It's going to be great.
Good
So,
deal.
yeah, we can't wait.
All right.
But yeah, it's going to be good. We have Christmassy things going on.
Yes.
Decorating things. It's going to be so good.
All right.
All right.
We hope to see you on Sunday.
We'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.